Coronation Street thinks they've been clever. A murder, 4 possible victims, a week of special episodes which will culminate with both victim and aggressor being revealed. But you know, we've solved it already. So welcome to the Tainted Tavern, where the Newton and Ridley is served cold. Pull up a chair and let's talk the Coronation Street murder mystery.
Welcome to the Tainted Tavern. Come sit inside for free.
Okay, now it all started back in January, in the soap event of the decade, nay, the soap event of the century, in which Emmerdale and Coronation Street finally came together and each acknowledged the other and acknowledged the fact that they are existing in a shared universe. But that's always been the case, and eagle-eye viewers over the years have been able to spot the clues and the hints that this was indeed a shared universe, that where Weatherfield exists, a few miles down the road, there's Beaconsdale, and Otter, and Emmerdale, and the Woolpack, and Manly Dingle. Use my evidence for suggesting that Emmerdale and Coronation Street do exist very much in a shared universe.
Now, long before Corriedale finally established the fact that Emmerdale and Coronation Street were living and operating in the same fictional universe, the clues have been there for eager-eyed fans to spot. Back in the 90s, there used to be regularly scenes that were taking part in the cellar of the Woolpack Inn, and in the corner of the cellar you could often see crates of Newton and Ridley beer. Newton and Ridley, of course, are being the brewery that supplies the beer to the Rovers Return. In fact, Newton and Ridley once owned the Rovers Return. Back in 2021, there was a social media video released by Liam Kavanagh in Emmerdale during the Environmental Concerns Week that both soaps took part in. And Liam Kavanagh did this video, released it to social media, and then in a scene in Coronation Street, we saw Maria watching that video on her phone. Paddy once said in Emmerdale after that he'd had a night out in Manchester and ended up in a pub that smelled of old hot pot, which again was an obvious reference to Coronation Street. But by far the biggest shared event in both soaps, prior to Corriedale of course, was back in 1993 with the infamous plane crash in Emmerdale, which changed the soap forever. After that plane crash was aired, there was a scene in Coronation Street in the cabin in which the radio was playing, the news came on, and it was directly reporting about the plane crash that had taken place in Emmerdale. So there we have it. Emmerdale and Coronation Street have always lived in a shared universe, but now with the advent of Corriedale, there is no doubt in it.
Shared universe indeed. Now, but let's go back to the murder. The current murder that has occurred in Coronation Street last night, that's Friday the 23rd of April. In the episode, we featured the wedding between Carla and Lisa Swain. Swala, I think they call it, in these trendy terms. But anyway, we witnessed the wedding. Now, during the wedding, there was a scream heard from outside, and Carla dismissed it by saying it was a fox. But it wasn't. Because we are forewarned, we know there is going to be a murder on this night, because I was telegraphed all the way back, and let me check my notes to get the dates right, on February the 16th, Coronation Street did a flash-forward episode in which Betsy Swain is in the police station revealing that she has discovered, on the way back, she'd been at her mother's wedding to Carla, she'd gone into town, and on the way back, she discovered a body. We knew that was coming. That was the teaser. And that occurred on February the 16th, 2026, this year. Now, since then, we've been given our 4 suspects, and Coronation Street have confirmed that there are only 4 possible suspects for this murder. That's Coronation Street's answer to Mrs. Robinson from The Graduate. Then there's Carl Webster, who came into the soap as Debbie and Kevin's brother, but turned out he was Debbie's son. Then we've got Theo, who is taking time off from playing Harrison, the policeman in the Archers, and has come into Coronation Street as Todd's new husband and his abusive husband. And lastly, but not least, we have Jodie. And Jodie is the mystery girl. And Jodie...
In Soapland, nobody's innocent. Not the barmaid with the buxom attributes. Not the extra who's been sipping the same pint since last week's episode. They think they got away scot-free. Think again.
And Jodie is the person that I plan to prove in this video today is the actual victim in the Corrie murder shock, and you'll get that evidence in a few minutes. So let's look at the timeline so far as what has occurred. So January the 5th, we had Corriedale, and in Corriedale, the character of Jodie was introduced. She was tied up in the back of a van, which was being driven by Graham Foster. Graham Foster, who had died in Emmerdale years previously, but it turned out he didn't die, he just faked his own death. And Graham Foster's a pretty curious character because he doesn't really seem to do anything in Emmerdale except walking around the farmland wearing an immaculate three-piece suit, and his hair doesn't move an inch. He must be using the same hairdresser as Roger Moore used for the James Bond movies. But that's how we were introduced to Jodie. Now, February the 16th, we had, as I said, the flash-forward episode, the prophecy, if you like, in which we saw a visibly upset Betsy Swain being interviewed by the police about this body. She had discovered the identity of the body was not revealed at that point, because that was going to be the big mystery that would keep us on the edge of our seat for all these months. Now, on April the 5th, recently, Graham Foster in Emmerdale was found by Rona, who I think them two are going to end up doing a bit of the jiggy, which is going to break Marlon's heart. But mind you, Marlon's such a wet blanket, he probably deserves it. But anyway, Graham was found unconscious in a barn. He'd been stabbed and beaten. Now, he revealed at that point to Rona he didn't want to call the hospital, he'd do his own stitches, because Graham, as well as wearing an immaculate three-piece suit around all the farmland and never getting a mark on it and never moving an hair on his head, is also ex-special forces, and he's hard. He's a proper hard man, and he'll sew up his own wounds. But he reveals that he was attacked because he had lost Jodie during that crash thingamajig that happened in Corriedale. Are you with me? And he said the contract that he was involved to capture her has been terminated. So we know now that some pretty shady people are involved, and they're after Jodie. We know that. And then on April the 23rd, if I'm right, that contract took place and Jodie was wiped out. And that was the scream you heard during Carla and Lisa's wedding. People online are saying that scream was Betsy. We know it was Betsy because we knew she was the one who discovered the body, but I don't believe it was Betsy, because it was a female scream, but it sounded far more mature to be Betsy. I think there are levels of maturity in screams. Now, let's look at the other three possible victims and why I think it can't be them, and then I will give you my evidence for why I believe it is Jodie. So here is the characters that it could have been. Carl Webster. Now, I know he's leaving the soap, so killing him off, and he does deserve it. If he does die, there would be a lot of Coronation Street regulars who could be the main suspects. You could have his brother Kevin, or rather, as it turned out, his uncle Kevin. You could have Abby, Kevin's ex-wife, who Carl did the jiggy with. It could be Ronnie, Debbie's husband. It could even be, what's his name in the Ryan. So there's so many there. But the reason I don't think it's going to be Carl is Carl's leaving the soap, we know that, but Debbie's dementia storyline has got to go on, so I believe Carl will be brought back to for the end game of that dementia storyline, because that seems the only natural thing to do. Okay, victim, or possible victim number 2, Megan. Megan, who has been grooming Will, who is the youngest son of the Driscolls. She's been grooming him. She's been discovered but the police haven't got enough evidence to lock her up. She's got a bit of the Prince Andrew about her, I suppose. There's not enough evidence, allegedly, so they haven't locked her up. So she could be a victim, but again, if she was a victim, then the list of suspects would be endless. You'd have Toyah and Leanne Battersby, you'd have Eva, you'd have the rest of the family who run the Rovers Return, such as Maggie. They could all be possibles. I don't think it's going to be Megan, because I think this grooming storyline is going to be played out over the coming months, and we are going to see Megan get in a proper prison sentence. That's my opinion anyway. Okay, Theo. Now Theo's leaving also. He's going back to the Archers to play the lovable policeman Harrison, because he's probably had enough of being an abusive, nasty piece of work like Theo, who he plays in Coronation Street. Now, it could possibly be him who is the victim, but I don't think so. Somehow I think Todd's leaving Coronation Street for a while. Don't think it's a permanent leave. I think he's going away for a while. In the storyline, he's going over to Thailand to be with his mother and brother. Just going to take a drop of my Newton and Ridley. So again, I don't think it's going to be Theo, because once Todd's taken out of the equation, once Todd has left the soap, then Theo's character, his storyline has run its course, and there's no need for him to be there. So that leaves Jodie. Now, the reason I believe this is the victim will turn out to be Jodie is this. Jodie was brought in basically during the Corrie episode, but she was first seen in the back of a van driven by Graham Foster, as I've said, who is an Emmerdale character. So you can say that she comes from Emmerdale. Now, she has ended up in Coronation Street, playing Shauna's sister, but she very much comes from the Emmerdale part of the Soapyverse, if you want to call it that, the Soap universe. Now, if she has got an hard drive, now, also, there are a couple of loose ends. So, let's assume it is Jodie who's murdered. So, on her body, they're going to find Lisa Swain's warrant card, because she stole Lisa's warrant card when she was babysitting for Carla and Lisa. Lisa hasn't reported the warrant card stolen. So, there's another big storyline, because something like that in the police force is a serious offence, and Lisa could lose her job, or at the very least face very stringent disciplinary consequences. So there's our storyline to play out. Also, if Jodie is found dead and that hard drive is still on her person and that's discovered by the police, then that allows the story to carry over to Emmerdale. And I believe that it is that will stop Paddy and Dylan in Emmerdale going to prison. Now, will they go down our line? Because it then means that the soaps are once again bleeding from one end to the other. It's almost like a retread of Corriedale. I don't think they'll do another major crossover episode by Corriedale anytime soon, though I do think they will do another, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon. But the fact is that the current storyline, the Jodie storyline, does tie in with Emmerdale. It's the only storyline, full storyline, that its tentacles are spreading from one soap into the other. Is travelling down those mean cobbles and going over to the sheep-filled streets of Beaconsdale. And I believe that the writers are going to have to tie that storyline up. And I believe that that was the intention all along. That the Corriedale episode was sowing the seeds for this murder mystery. That's why I believe it's going to be Jodie. But anyway, before I go on any further, I'm going to show you my investigation that I believe proves that I am right, that it will be Jodie as revealed as the killer. And so, it's time to investigate. The game is very much afoot.
The investigation starts in Weatherfield, when we take a look around for whatever clues we can find, but we come up with a blank. And so we stop to pay tribute to two legends, and then we're off to Beaconsdale, where once again the trail goes cold. But we do stop for a quick bit of jiggy-jiggy with Mandy Dingle. Well, I'm only human, who can blame me? And then it's back to Weatherfield, where we make a shocking discovery. By Jove, it's Jodie. Now you see, the Corrie murder mystery, it's not so much of a murder mystery really if you follow the trail. Think of it. Jodie Ramsey, sister of Shona, a lost soul, running from a mysterious past. She first turned up, tied up in the back of Graham's van. But when the crazy bedlam of the crash occurred in the Corriedale episode, she took her opportunity and escaped. She found herself in the local hospital, where, by coincidence, miracle, call it what you may, she met the woman who was her long-lost sister. Over the last few weeks, we've had a lot of events in both Emmerdale and Coronation Street that have tied in with Jodie. For instance, on April the 5th, Graham Foster was found by Rona stabbed, bleeding and unconscious in the barn in Beaconsdale. He told her then that he'd been attacked because he'd had a contract to deliver Jodie to whoever he was working for, but she'd managed to escape, and that was the consequences of his failure. Jodie also has been busy in Coronation Street. She's stolen Lisa Swain's warrant card. Lisa knows it's missing, but she doesn't know where it's gone, but she hasn't reported it, which is going to cause problems further down the line. Now, we also know Jodie is holding an hard drive. What is on that hard drive that could put her life in danger? Now, the story in Emmerdale involves two people, Celia and Ray, who are both deceased now, but were involved in a modern slavery ring and drug smuggling. Is Jodie tied in with that? Is that what information is on her hard drive? And if it is Jodie that turns out to be the victim and the hard drive is discovered by the police, then maybe there will be evidence on there that will free Paddy and Dylan from what looks like a certain long jail sentence. And so we're back to Corrie. And on April the 23rd, 2026, Carla and Lisa's wedding night, we heard a scream. Carla said it was a fox, but unless this fox had escaped from Beaconsdale after the accident in Corriedale and travelled up in the van, then it wasn't a fox. We don't think it was Betsy, who we know finds the body. It was a mature scream. We think it was Jodie. And so, this, dear friends, is my evidence to suggest that the victim in the Corrie murder mystery is in fact Jodie Ramsey. I rest my case.
So that's it. That's my theory. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's going to be Jodie, or do you think it's going to be one of the others that's going to be the unlucky one and end up splattered over those grim, dirty cobbles of Coronation Street? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing. It helps. It doesn't cost you anything, and it'll help this channel to grow. And also, bash that bell that you can see underneath this screen to be notified next time I post a video. So for now, from Soapland, it's goodbye from the Tainted Tavern.
Come back soon.